As tensions running high and protests along the U.S.-Mexico border continue, local LULAC members also joined the fight to end family separation and the Trump administration's zero-tolerance policy. 3 News reporter Taylor Alanis shares their message in tonight's top story.
LULAC Council 1 President Dr. Nick Adame says he had no idea he would actually get to witness what the public has seen on televisions across the world until Saturday's protest. Emotions ran high as a busload of children rolled out of the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Facility on Saturday in McAllen, known as the Ursula facility.
We hear a voice for those children right now that are asking for their mother and their father and haven't done it.
Corpus Christi LULAC President Dr. Nick Adame Facebook Lives most of the Free the Children rally, including when protesters blocked the bus from leaving.
As some of the people had their hands on the buses and they were praying, you could see their little hands on the glass.
Adame says no one could give the group answers as to where they were taking the young passengers.
Even though an executive order was signed, we still have children that are still separated from their families.
Adame says comprehensive immigration reform has always been on top of LULAC's agenda,
with a pathway to citizenship for the 11+ million that are here.
But he says the way these families were torn apart and treated is a human rights issue.
People fleeing their countries because of civil war and drug cartels, and they come to seek asylum, and what do? We incarcerate them.
Adame says the protesters ended up moving out of the bus's way and says the protest was meant to just bring awareness to what is continuing to be a crisis at the border. Taylor Alanis, 3 News.